Hey guys, JohnnyCrims2000 here, and welcome back to Let's Play Forgotten Worlds. This is part 2, and right away, holy crap, we are greeted with a bunch of guys here throwing what look to be light arrows, or might even just be regular arrows. And as you guys can see here, we're given a completely, almost like Egyptian theme. Like I said, this game is really weird. We started off with like a space post-apocalyptic theme, and then all of a sudden we go into this sort of like space Egyptian theme, having like random faces going toward us and stuff. It's crazy. It's crazy. I really don't know what's going on, but I do love just how crazy this is. Like it's all crazy, yes, but it seems like it just goes with, like, I don't even know how to explain it, really. What's the best way to explain it? What's another game that's kind of like equivalent to crazy, but it's sort of like stylish crazy in a way? I'm just going to go ahead and say Nights into Dreams. Because in Nights into Dreams, at least that one, you know, it sort of, it makes sense because it's in a dream, sort of, but at the same time, you know, everything's crazy, nothing really makes sense within the dream, but it looks stylish, like it makes sense. It's something that people thought out, at least, when they were making that game. I always felt that this was the same thing here. Yeah, it doesn't kind of, it really doesn't kind of make sense that all of a sudden we're in like an Egyptian stylized place, but at the same time it makes sense because the world is like post-apocalyptic. There's gods everywhere. There's one god in particular, Emperor Bios, who sort of like remade the world in his image. Maybe he's just a fan of pharaohs and Cleopatra and all that kind of good jazz. Anyway, I do want to go ahead and talk about this game a little bit more from a historical sense. This, I read somewhere that this was kind of the third game in a series. Now, no, there is no Forgotten Worlds 0, or there's not even a Forgotten Worlds 2 or 3. This game, unfortunately, never had a sequel, but it is considered to be the third and final entry in what's known as Capcom's like jetpack shooter series. If you want to know what the other games in the series are, it's Section Z and Sidearms Hyperdyne, which are two. They're okay games. I've played them before. I have fun with them. They're a little bit hard. Obviously, they're, you know, old school arcade games that are meant to chew up your quarters. They're not easy by any means, but they're still, you know, they're pretty much like this. In fact, Sidearms Hyperdyne would include something that was similar to sort of like the controls in this game, where in that game, unlike other shooters, you could actually switch between facing left or right. Now, normally with shooters, you're always facing forward or always facing right, sort of like Gradius and things like that. You really can't turn your ship in Gradius. You're always facing the right. Sidearms Hyperdyne, when that came out, it was like kind of revolutionary because all of a sudden, like, holy crap, I'm facing to the left, and it made shooting things behind you easier. Now, obviously, this Forgotten Worlds is sort of like, you know, it made things, it took things to a whole new level in that all of a sudden you can face in 16 directions. And yes, it is 16 directions. It's not 8. It's actually 16. So it's actually pretty impressive when you think about it. So apparently, you know, Forgotten Worlds is the third in the series. Unfortunately, we never saw a repeat or any kind of like continuation of that series. I actually wouldn't mind having a Forgotten Worlds sort of like a remake. Almost, I would even say in 3D. Like, if there's one game that I wish would get a shooter revival, it would be this one. I think it would be pretty awesome. It would be pretty sweet. So anyway, here we are fighting the boss here. I believe its name is Sphinx. It's kind of hard to tell which of these things is, you know, what their names are. I had a hard time finding their names. But this is Sphinx. It's sort of like this big, giant, boat-looking thing that, for whatever reason, has actually, no, this is Imescatit. The only reason why I say that is because I'm actually reading off the official wiki that says a possessed flying ship in Egypt that attacks players with an arsenal of weapons. So we haven't found the Sphinx. This is Imescatit. And obviously, as you guys can tell there, you can't really harm it unless you get rid of the barrier that's right in front of it. But just like any other thing, it's not that hard, especially with 2 players. You have enough firepower, and for whatever reason, all of a sudden the roof of this thing, you can go through it. I guess. I don't know what to tell you. All of a sudden we're phasing through ceilings and things like that. But that's alright. Because that's the end of the level. So, as I was saying here, this game did receive a number of different ports. This was released around the time that the Genesis had come out, so we got a Genesis port, but unfortunately we didn't get a Super Nintendo port, but that's alright. Before I get to the Genesis port, though, it was released to a bunch of, as was sort of like the norm at this time in gaming, it got a bunch of ports, a bunch of different ports to home computers, at least in Europe. You know, things like, the Amiga, what's another one? I'm trying to remember, like Amiga, the Atari ST, the Commodore, the Amstrad CPC, some of the other ones. I can't remember like all of them, but just know that if it was a computer and it was a gaming computer in Europe, it probably received a port of this game. But obviously for somebody like me who is in America, that stuff doesn't really matter because I don't really have those computers anymore, and I don't really care to get any of them. even as a fan of old school gaming as I am, I don't really care enough to get those computers. But for those of you who are interested, yes, this game did come out for a number of home computers. Now, obviously, the one version that probably the most people have played for their homes is the Genesis / Mega Drive version, which made a couple of interesting changes to it. I mean, it was pretty close to what this game is. The only big thing, I mean, the controls are pretty much the same thing. If I remember correctly, you have it's kind of like the same thing with this, except, obviously the Genesis only had 3 buttons. So you move your character with a D-pad. You had one of the buttons is for shooting. I think it was, I want to say it's A, or maybe it's B. And then the other 2 buttons were reserved to spinning clockwise and then counterclockwise. And then one of the interesting things about that is that it renamed Sylphie into, her name was very weird. It was renamed Mirabella for whatever strange reason. And I do want to mention here, this is sort of like a perspective fail that's going on here. Now you guys can see it over there in the background. These faces are popping up. Now, they still look like they're in the background, but they're actually on the same plane as you are. But I kind of wish that they would have, I don't know, they would have made the graphics a little bit brighter so that it at least looks like it's in the same, plane that we are in. But yeah, I always thought that this looked a little weird. The first time I went through this, I was just like, wait a minute, I'm getting stuck behind something that's in the background. I don't know, that's just me. But yeah, the Genesis version was rather faithful. You also saw a... oh, by the way, the Genesis version is also the version that would eventually come out for the Wii Virtual Console. So if you go to the Wii Virtual Console, you can get this game. However, just know that it is the Genesis version and not the arcade version, which is, by all accounts, the superior version. There was also a port release for, the Master... Yeah, the Master System. By the way, this is Sphinx. This is the one that I was talking about. The Master System, unfortunately, is only 1 player. It had to cut a lot of things out, and the weird thing about that is that because the Master System only has 2 buttons, it's sort of like an NES on its controller, the weird thing is that your character, so you still move your character all over the screen with the D-pad. However, because it only has 2 buttons, those 2 buttons are reserved for rotating your character clockwise, counterclockwise. But then you may be wondering, well, if there's only 2 buttons and those 2 buttons are already used, how the heck do I shoot? Well, in the Master System, your character actually shoots automatically. It's wonky, it's kind of weird, but that's unfortunately how it is. And my god, this thing is annoying. As you can probably tell, it just goes all over the place. You have to shoot it, and for the first part, this thing was just going after me like it is right now, just following me and stuff like that. So that's kind of annoying. You can't get stuck in the middle like I am right there, and holy crap, I'm about to die. So anyway, finally we have the TurboGrafx 16 version, which it's more or less the same thing as the Genesis version. I mean, it is its own version, but one of the main differences is that, one, it's only 1 player, unfortunately, no 2 player. Genesis is 2 player though. It's only 1 player. But in order to combat this, you do get to choose whether you want it to be Unknown Soldier Blue or Unknown Soldier Red. As I mentioned in the first part, each player isn't identical to the other. As I mentioned in the first part, Unknown Soldier Blue has a long-range, single-shot weapon, while the red guy is Unknown Soldier Red has a short-range, widespread shot. So the TurboGrafx 16 did have both of them in there. They do still have their differences. You just don't have multiplayer. And then finally, you're seeing the final version of this game, the final version of release, which is the arcade emulator version that was available in Capcom Classics Collection Volume 1, which is the version that I'm playing right now. And more or less, it is an emulation of the arcade version. And that's pretty much the one that I would recommend in all honesty. Of all the versions that I've played, I mean, if you have the Genesis version, I mean, that's the best one, honestly, from like the home version, at least the ones that I've, that you could possibly get, at least in America, between the Genesis Master System and the TurboGrafx 16. I would recommend the Genesis version, hands down. This is a game that is best enjoyed with 2 players, not just one. But, since it's in the Capcom Classics Collection, it's kind of hard not to recommend that one because it is the most complete. So anyway, this is Ra, and he is, as you can imagine, a possessed, sort of like those ancient mummy caskets. I think that's what they're called. And my god, there are bullets all over the place, and we just completely murdered this thing. Or actually, never mind, he's still around. But as you guys can see there, we each have, me and my friend Megan here, have our satellites out, and we each have a different kind of weapon. Hers is like the little bouncy balls that are all over the place. Actually, I can't tell if that's me or her. I think that's both of us, actually. We both have like little bouncy balls that are coming out all over the place. And god damn it, Megan, stop pressing the pause button. So this weapon in particular does a lot of damage, but really it's better used when you're in close quarters, when it has, when the little bouncy balls have places to bounce off. Otherwise, it's just a glorified like machine gun, really. And now all of a sudden we're in heaven. Yeah, I said that this was a strange game, and then all of a sudden we're fighting guys in white suits, and for some reason Woolly Mammoth's frozen in the back. Yeah, this game is strange, but at the same time, like I said so many times already, I love the visuals. Like, this is all very strange, but you have to think somebody had to come up with this stuff. Like, somebody had to say, alright, let's go with like a Greek, woolly map, Greek columns in the mountains, upside down frozen mountains coming out of clouds. Who the hell? Like, somebody had to come up with this. It's not like, let's say, Call of Duty, where all you have to do is take photographs of a place and be like, okay, make this into 3D, and then that's it. Not fun, not fun. I'm a bigger fan of these kind of games. But anyway, guys, all we have left here is we're going to go into the shop, but that is the end of part 2 of Let's Play Forgotten Worlds. I will see you guys in part 3 as soon as we're finished shopping here. Come on now, somebody make a selection. Or just exit, whatever. Alright guys, I'll see you next part. As always, if you like this video, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel if you want to get more stuff from me. In the meantime, if you like my videos, be sure to find me on Twitter, Tumblr, Raptr, and Screwattack.com to see the other gaming related content that I upload. Info is in the description. Who knows? Maybe you'll like my stuff. Maybe? Maybe?